Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Change2Twin TechTalk. I'm Marcela Alzin from TTTech and Dissemination Manager in Change2Twin project. And today we'll talk about our pilot experiments. Warm welcome to my guest, Peter Laloli, manager of the pilot experiment, and Jeroen Broekhuijsen, technical manager of our project, both of them from TNO. So without further ado, I will ask you both, what are the pilot experiments and what is the purpose of them in this project? Can you explain?
Great question, Marcela. The purpose of the pilot projects is that we wanted to learn during the project from our approach to apply digital twinning in SMEs. So we have a 7-step approach that we already used before the project, and we wanted to validate if these are the right steps, if this makes sense, if this works. And then if it works, can we then learn from it and then transfer that to the open calls so that they can also benefit from this strategy. And so that's the why we did it. And we selected 4 pilots during the proposal. They are the RoboPack digital twin, where they wanted to simulate the behavior of packaging material during transport. So which type of packaging does or does not break during transport to the end client, or with space structures, where they 3D print unique biomedical devices, and they want to have them right in one go. So not to do any reprinting or other problems during the printing process. And can they use a digital twin to predict beforehand what's going to happen, what the quality will be, if the design is right, those kinds of questions. And we have Grafenstone, which is a paint manufacturer in Spain, and they wanted to better understand, to track the material through the whole factory process, and better have awareness of which paints are currently where at which stage in the production, what's the state of their warehouse and stock, and if they can deliver on time. And then lastly, we have additive manufacturing, additive industries, which is a 3D printing machine manufacturer. And they want to have inline quality inspection during the 3D printing process. And using all the measurement data coming from the 3D print process, they want to be able to predict if there is any anomalies during the printing process itself, but also for later on predict whether designs will have likely any kinds of flaws in them. So that's why they use their digital twins.
Peter, you were accompanying those pilot experiments. So how was it going?
I think we in the end we took a little bit longer than we hoped for. In the open call, we aimed for 11 months, and I think in total during the pilot experiments it took us 18 to 22 months. That was fine. I'm sorry about the noise in the background. Is it's audible? No. Okay. Cool. And mainly that was, of course, during the Okay. During the pandemic, we had a lot of issues that we couldn't accommodate for, so to say. There were no visits to factories possible and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of a delay that we could not manage, but I think in the end we had 4 successful pilots. Most of them would have liked to be further down the road, so to say, but at least we showed the feasibility of a digital twin in all 4 cases. I think they will all continue down the road of digital twinning after the finishing of the pilot experiments itself.
And can you just tell us what kind of digital twins did these 4 companies develop? What are
yes,
they
of course.
Are they similar?
Sorry?
Are they different or are they similar?
They are very different. I think that's also why we selected these. We had very different, well, in Change2Twin, we differentiate a lot of different purposes. And that ranges from trying to do the design in a virtual manner to having a completely smart system that's relatively autonomous. And all steps in between, ranging to monitoring and optimization. And first of all, their goals, so their purposes were highly different. And like Jeroen already said, some were trying to optimize their process in their factory. Some were trying to make a machine that can correct its own actions. And like SPS, they were trying to go for a completely virtual design where you actually do the testing also in a virtual manner, so you don't have to destruct your one-of-a-kind creation, so to say.
And how successful were these experiments? Can you tell us? Were the expectations too high at the beginning, or what is your impression now after the experiments have ended, or have they ended yet?
Really? Yeah, so we finalized them a few months ago, but I don't, like I said, I don't think that's the end of the process for most of the companies. And how successful were they? So I think they all want to continue and expand. I think 2 out of 4 were clear after the experiments that it was very, very difficult what they had aimed for. So they needed very advanced models and a lot of experiments to support those models. And I think that's also one of the important lessons we learned, is that a lot of SMEs think that when they hear about a digital twin, that it's it's magic and it does everything. And it clearly it's most effective when you have a very clear purpose for it in mind, and then you can have the digital twin very to the point for that purpose. And I know in the original Change2Twin plan, we wanted to have multi-purpose digital twins, but that was a bridge too far for now.
I think also it really helped that we did assessments with all of the 4 pilots before we started out with the development of the digital twins themselves. And all 4 of the companies involved said that this really helped define their purpose in a narrower scope. Because first they thought it could solve everything in a factory, and now they better understood for what you can actually apply the digital twin, what value it can bring in terms of revenue or in terms of optimized production process, and also scope it better so that it's actually achievable for an SME to do it, because it takes a lot of hard work, as Peter just described.
Jeroen, and when you are now talking about the assessment beforehand, I would be very interested to see your point. What is the connection between the pilot experiments and the Change2Twin funding scheme?
All right. So what we did with the 4 pilots is with each of them, first we did let's say an intake and then an assessment. What's your vision? Where are you headed with your company? How does the twin fit into your strategy? And which thing in your factory do you want to use the twin for to make a difference, to create value. And then we took that part and used our 7-step approach, which is let's say a way to detail a work plan and go through that and see, okay, if we write down this work plan, now it will become achievable, because now everybody knows what to do. We know why we do it. We know hopefully what we will get out of it in terms of value. And then we can also measure the value so that if we're done, we know how effective we were. And then we get to work and make it happen. And afterwards, we evaluated how it went and what could have been better, or and if we achieved the actual value that we predicted. And so this whole strategy, from assessment to work plan to execution, is actually the same as what we're doing in the open calls. In the first phase of the open calls, we have the assessment phase and the work plan. And then the execution of everything, that's actually the second phase of the open calls. So we were able to take all of the lessons learned from the 4 pilots, improve both the assessment and the 7-step approach to get a proper plan, and also guide, let's say, the companies who are executing who are implementing the digital twin in the factory process, to do mentoring there, so we can transfer all of our knowledge that we got from doing the pilots and transfer that to the 12 or 15 companies who are currently doing the first phase of the implementation plan.
Wow, how interesting. And I think this is very important with those lessons learned. Maybe you can also tell us some more details about these lessons learned and how these flow into the actual experiments that we are now starting with our beneficiaries.
Yeah, so what we try to do is have specific lessons for each of those 7 steps that Jeroen was explaining. And Jeroen already told you a couple of them, like the thorough analysis at the start. It's really important. Some things that we also implemented in our own open call strategy is that we found that you have to have a sort of minimum level of digitization before you can actually start on working on a digital twin. We differentiate 6 levels, and level 2 is sort of the minimum that a company should have in order to start working on it. And that's also what we asked for in the open call then. And then I think the word standards has not been uttered yet, but that's also something that's not taken for granted in our project. But we see that although they are important, they are they need some extra attention every now and then. Mm-hmm. It's not something that goes without saying. And one of them was also already mentioned, the being realistic yet somewhat ambitious in your goals is also something that we try to make sure the SMEs that are now doing the deployment voucher in the open call, that they take that into consideration. And one other thing is that we found it's an absolute necessity to take a lot of the people in the organization by the hand when you do the process of digital twinning. So not just an IT manager and a factory manager, but also the people that actually have to feed the digital twin when it's running and have to do something with the results of it. They need to be part of the process to get there. Otherwise, it's something that they are sometimes even, well, fearful of, because they think it's going to replace them or make their job less interesting. And that's not what we aim for at all.
I think this is also a very important information and lessons learned, which you were able to pass on to our digital innovation hubs that are cooperating with us and doing the assessments with our beneficiaries, no?
Definitely. Yeah, so we did we are going to do a second round of instructing digital innovation hubs on how to do the assessment. Although we are 18 partners in Change2Twin, we cannot cover the whole of Europe. So that's why we involve the digital innovation hubs to do the assessment, so they can be local for the SME, which is to be preferred in terms of language, culture, or whatnot. But we still do the same assessment with all of them, so they all get a similar outcome. Yeah, like I said, we're looking forward to doing the second round, and then we have about 60 digital innovation hubs that are qualified, certified from Change2Twin.
And actually, this week we are going to certify some additional digital innovation hubs to enlarge our geographical coverage. So really looking forward. But Peter, you have just now mentioned the assessment open call, and this would be my final question to both of you, because we are going to open or launch the second assessment open call on the 30th of June, and it will be open until the end of September. But in terms of warm-up, what would be your recommendation to our beneficiaries, how they should prepare, or whatever are your recommendations from the pilot experiments? I'm really curious to hear.
Well, I hope we try to make the questions that people need to answer in their application as clear as possible. And I would strongly advise everybody to write down what they really want instead of what they think we want to hear. It's not about politics. It's about we are trying to help you as an SME to get there where you want, and that should be the number one. So cut the blah blah and get to where you want to go.
I think the other part that I would advise companies that are interested in the assessment is really prepare a little. Because what we've seen, if you know your business strategy beforehand, it will make a lot more sense going into the assessment compared to companies who didn't know where they were going. Because then first we need to understand where you're aiming to go, and then we can think about how can you then apply digital twinning or any digitalization strategy. And the other part is when you're doing the second part of our assessment is about how ready you are or how digitalized you already are. And what I see is a lot is overconfidence in terms of how far along companies think they are compared to in reality how far they really are. And when they start writing a plan, it really helps to have a good understanding of your current position in terms of digitalization. So what does your IT landscape look like? Which people have the right responsibilities? What does your business process look like? And if you have those by hand, prepared, it will take so much less effort to write a good proposal than if you all have to, make this up as you go. Because that will just take too much of your effort.
So Jeroen, when I understand you correctly, you are recommending to our beneficiaries to start considering their application now and not leave it for the last days before the closure.
Exactly.
In September, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as I know, it should be not too much work. If you have prepared, like Jeroen said, if you know where you want to go, then it should be a few hours maximum to get it all filled out. And I think even the partners in Change2Twin and the digital innovation hubs are willing to help you in case you are finding yourself with questions.
Last but not least, I would really recommend to all our potential beneficiaries to read also on our website all the experiences which we have shared, and also the deliverable, the fantastic report that was provided at the end of the pilot experiment, so that they can have a good idea what to expect and to prepare properly. So Jeroen and Peter, I thank you very much for your time and for this very nice talk. And I think that you have provided very interesting insights into the first part of the project, where we have done the proof of concept, and the pilot experiments really showed us how to handle our beneficiaries in the assessment and deployment vouchers. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the talk, and let's catch up soon again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks to both of you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.